came in from the notorious Sajan. How do I improve kicks faster, and what should I do regularly? So I suppose there was a couple of ways that we could look at this one. And the first thing that jumped to your mind was, how do I kick faster? And the first thing that jumped to my mind was, how do I improve faster? And I suppose they are different. So definitely, yeah. Do you want to kind of throw a couple of topics at the kick faster part of the question?
Yeah, this is something what we often see come up on questions and things, and people want to know the answer to this question because it can be obviously very, very beneficial to be able to kick faster, move faster. But of course, when we have, it's not really a straightforward thing, but here we go with a nice kind of a graphic to give you some basic understanding principles. So first off, we would like to develop like a good structure. So just a good base of so we see here a strong core is vital to all speed and power output. Mm-hmm. And that's relevant as well in terms of just your body as a unit, the idea of trying to launch a cannon from a canoe, an unstable surface and something that doesn't have a lot of strength and control can be a very tricky thing to do. So if you want to be able to launch with great power and great force, you need to have that solid structure, what comes often in terms of strength. So you need to have that good base of strength in the big compound lifts. So that's something that obviously takes time, and it's not something that you can just go off and do now and expect results tomorrow. So that's more of a long-term thing. And then on top of that, you can build these other things that we have listed here. So the idea of the fast twitch fibers, so using plyometric training, and you often see people using the resistant bands and things like that. Mm-hmm. But you do need to have that structure underneath first, I do believe. And then, of course, having efficient technique. So is there more efficient ways you can use your technique? Of course, we know there's no perfect technique because the situation adapts and varies so much. But this is more about can you be a bit more efficient in terms of your your positioning and your body? Are you kind of leaking any areas? Is your posture, for example, way behind as you carry your technique? Sure. Obviously, that's going to hamper the ability to transition very explosively and things like that. So, and then you can look at your body composition. So obviously, the more excess body fat that you have, it's like carrying around an extra weight. So it's can you go kicking, holding a 5 kilo weight in your hands all the time? It's very, very difficult. So the leaner you are, obviously, the faster you will be as well. And I think something that is very much overlooked is the whole idea of practicing to kick quickly. So a lot of time you can just simply kick quicker on the pads and do things like that, and it will really improve. And that's kind of going back to the first point as well of developing this fast twitch fiber mentality. And it is a mentality in a way as well. So you need to be able to kick quickly in practice if you want to kick quickly generally in your sparring and in performance as well.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I kind of wanted to jump on there from the point of view of the flip side of this is how do we improve our kicking quickly rather than how do we actually make our kicks faster? But we'll link the two a little bit. So what I was thinking is there's a few things that you can do a little bit that will get you we'll say outcomes that will make it feel like or look like that your kicking experience is quicker, and you can do them pretty fairly right away. And the first thing that you can look at is the when and the how. So if your distance to your opponent isn't correct, you're going to kick slower because you're going to have to make a bigger preparation. They're going to see it coming. If the timing is wrong, it's going to be slower because, again, if you can time your kick so that the person is moving directly onto it, or if you're if they're at the right range, the kick is going to be quicker again. And a very simple thing that you can do is, as I said, practice fast kicks. You want to make sure that your practice is geared at having the person at the right distance. One more simple thing is that if you're preparing to hit very hard or your hardest, get a kick shield out there, and you want to smash that kick shield, fold it in half, leave the person on the other side of the kick shield winded, guarantee you the shapes that you make, your preparations, what you do with your body is going to give away the power that kick is going to have. Whereas if the intent is to disguise the kick and make sure that they don't see the kick until the last possible moment and that it arrives at the pad as quickly as possible regardless of the power, it's going to take a different shape. So we want to practice in the shapes that we're going to, and in the motions and in the rhythms that we're actually going to use in sparring. So practicing off the spot with no prior movement is not necessarily a good way to practice getting faster at kicking. Practicing without a live opponent as well is another thing. So even if it's, you know, through the surrogate of the person holds a glove in front for you but moves with you or something, or holds a flipper or a paddle, that's going to be a little bit better than a person standing in holding a heavy bag or kicking a heavy bag or a kick shield, because you're hitting a static target with your maximum force, and that's just never going to happen in sparring. You know, that's just something that we don't see. It's unrealistic to practice for something. You know, there's no harm in doing it. You want to develop power, you want to do it, you know, okay, we can do that, but that's what you're doing. That's almost supplementary training in the same way as going to the weights room is. But for you getting a kick to land on an opponent, you have to throw that from balance, you have to throw that from movement, you have to match where they're going, and that will make you faster. You'll seem like a person who seems fast. It seems like they have all the time in the world to get the kick to land there, but it doesn't mean that they arrive in the shortest possible time. They just arrive in the correct time.
And I think that's actually something that I was thinking of as you were chatting through that. The whole idea of what was it? Conor McGregor said that timing beats speed.
Yeah.
And that's so important. Like, that's something that we actually don't think of when we're like, okay, I want to be faster. And just think of that whole idea of the timing and the distance. So yeah, being able to think of it from both areas, the whole idea of like the physical training and the physical development, but then as well, like, we always have to bring it back to what we're doing in the ring and what we're trying to achieve. And it's so important, those things that you just touched on there, of the timing, the distance and all of that, and balance. And we've actually seen a lot of these things in today's clip as well from Milos, and like at times very, very quick off the mark and catching his opponent by surprise.
Yeah. And I mean, the same applies for how do you slow someone down, because we don't often think of it. We think about in sparring, how do I get faster, because it seems like that's something that we can impact or influence more. But you can also slow someone down. And the way that you do that, let's take the simplest example that jumps into my mind is you have one person who wants to blitz and the other one who wants to catch them with a defensive side kick. The longer the stance that the person who's making the defensive side kick is in, the more time they've basically got in their stance to absorb the distance covered with the blitz and find their way to make that. And that's why you'll see it with a backward moving action or with a jump back. You're preserving the distance between the heads of the two people as you move backwards, and you're giving time to extend that leg. So the person throwing the blitz is going to look to stay low, to shorten the distance, to extend the hand as far as they possibly can as they push through. And the person defending is going to look to extend their stance, lean back, push the weight into the back leg. And then they can delay the kick until the distance is correct almost. But, we want to think about slowing our opponent down. And I think that's something that Miłosz does very, very well in those videos, where he drifts his head forward and leans into techniques, and then you're reaching for it, and then he just drifts the head back and it's not there anymore. I mean, we spoke a little bit after the last chat about leaning in taekwondo, and it's not the same thing as what we meant then. Leaning as a defense, as in leaning out of the way of techniques, maybe doesn't always work out very well in ITF. But, leaning into techniques to draw something is a different concept. So,
there's the whole idea of distance manipulation there and things like that as well.
You're hiding.
You're perceived to be a bit closer, but your feet are actually in
same
with
that
position.
Having the hand in front thing. If you're keeping the hand up there, it does foreshorten, and the eyes can be tricked, and you can misjudge your distance a little bit. That's why one of the things that we don't teach a very close guard most of the time, because it gives very good information about distance, because this is now one chunked unit of person. And once the guard is mobile and the front hand moves a little bit, you arrive at a position where now you're having to take in way more perceptual information, and there's a better chance of a mistake.
Yeah, not only that as well, just a touch on that idea of the front hand is you kind of want to deal with the problems before they get to you.
Yeah.
So if you're very close, especially it's not boxing for us, we're not always living in that closer range because we have the kicks involved. So if you can control the problems before they get to your body line, it gives you a better opportunity to set up counters, both with hands and legs then as well. So you don't want to be dealing with the problems when they're on top of you. You want to be dealing with the problems when they're out far. Not too far, obviously, because just like we said with Miłosz today, you want to be able to put people in a range where they think they can hit you, but you're just outside of that range, but you still have the ability with balance and timing to shoot back if necessary.
Absolutely. So hopefully that has gone some way towards answering the question about kicking fast or kicking better faster, whichever it was, and given some thought.